Hey guys, this is Ray for PhoneArena. Today I'm doing a video review of the new HTC One X, the new top model of the company, at least for the first half of 2012. You might remember that at the end of last year HTC did have some problems, so to speak, after reporting some disappointing financial results at the end of the year. So the company seems to be committed now to change its course, to innovate its lineup, and today what we get to see is the first result of those decisions in the form of the HTC One X. One of the more important improvements that HTC has made is with regards to the design. You know that previous HTC phones used to be built very well with the premium materials and such, but they were also quite thick and heavy and not as easy to look at. But now with the One X we see that the company has decided to make a very slimmer phone. The One X is very slim, although it uses polycarbonate, which is a kind of plastic. The good thing about this is that this kind of plastic actually feels very nice to the touch, and at the same time the handset still feels very solid and is relatively lightweight. So we kind of like this new design approach by HTC. All of this, however, doesn't mean that the phone isn't bulky. As a matter of fact, it is bulky, mostly due to its big 4.7-inch display. Because of this, the handset is very wide and very high. And just for a comparison here, I'll show you the One X next to the iPhone 4S. Here you can see that there is quite a big difference between these handsets. So let's see what we have around the sides of the HTC One X. On the left side we have this micro USB port. On the top side we have the 3.5mm headset jack, the power and lock key, as well as this micro SIM tray, which is opened using a special tool or a clip. On the right side of the device we only have this minimalistic volume rocker, and at the bottom we only have the microphone. Let's check out the back side. There we see the Beats Audio logo. This is the very stylish grill for the loudspeaker. We have some dock connectors here, the HTC logo, and at the top we have the 8-megapixel ImageSense camera with an LED flash. All of the keys around the body of the HTC One X function quite decently, although they could have been better. This is especially true for the volume down key. The display of the HTC One X measures 4.7 inches and it's also an HD display, which means that it has 720 by 1280 pixels. The pixel density of this display is 312, and it's very hard to see an individual pixel on this display, so it's very high quality. On top of that, HTC has used a new LCD, Super LCD 2 technology, which is here to introduce us to less glare with this display, as well as better viewing angles. We can also add that the colors are very saturated, so in most use cases this display is very beautiful. Interestingly, HTC sticks to the good old capacitive keys under the display instead of placing some on-screen navigational ones such as in the Galaxy Nexus, but it's okay if you ask us. The bad thing about it though is that it makes accidental presses a bit easier, although we didn't really have trouble with these keys. Of course, HTC One X runs the new Android Ice Cream Sandwich platform version 4.03, but on top of this we have the new Sense 4 user interface, which is greatly improved compared to its previous versions. One of the most important things that HTC has done with Sense 4 user interface is to make it a lot simpler compared to Sense 3. For example, as you can see, scrolling between home screens, for example, now is very smooth, or switching between the main menu pages is also very smooth. Gone is this 3D carousel which happened when you quickly swipe between home screens in Sense 3. And as you may remember, pretty much every widget in Sense 3 had this really deep 3D effect, which was very noticeable when you turn to another home screen, for example. And the thing is that this 3D effect has remained here as well, as you can see very clearly with this widget here. So the 3D effect is still here, and you still get this kind of visual goodie, but it's just not as intrusive as it used to be. All of this simplifying, however, doesn't mean that HTC has abandoned its rich set of personalization options, and they are all accessible through the Personalize application, which lets you change those well-known scenes, skins, which allows you to radically change the appearance of your handset, and is something that's very neat. Of course, you can change wallpapers and stuff. You can assign different lock screen shortcuts and so on and so forth. Of course, you have the trademark weather clock here by HTC and the usual very big widgets for the home screen, which kind of give this familiar HTC look to the HTC One X, but also show us the new direction that HTC is going by, being a little more subtle, a little simpler, and overall trying to streamline things a bit. So let's check out how the typing experience is on the HTC One X. And we're actually going to spoil the surprise for you and tell you that we're not really pleased with what we see in the One X. Not that it is bad, quite the contrary. The handset is okay to type on. It will get the job done, but with such a great real estate here, 4.7 inches, HTC could design better on-screen QWERTY keyboards. For example, the portrait one, it's actually not that big because of the aspect ratio of the screen. The screen is very wide, so here in terms of width, it's just not enough to make a very big keyboard. But of course, this means that the landscape QWERTY keyboard should be very large, and this is also not completely true because we have these navigational arrows here to the right side. So as you can see, the letter keys of the keyboard do not take the whole space of the display. This thing aside, we also don't like the fact that there is very little space between the different keys, which makes it relatively easy to mispress a key. Another thing with this keyboard is the set of colors that HTC has used. As you can see, the color of the letters of the keys themselves is not contrasting enough to the background, so they kind of all blend together. And we also have next to each letter, we also have the additional functionality of the key written on it. So all of this kind of makes up for this kind of cluttered typing experience. So as we said, again, it's not bad. It's pretty decent at that, but it's just not great, and it's not 4.7 inches great. Plus, the keyboard itself could have been designed better, and that would have made the experience better as well. Of course, you can solve this relatively easily by installing a third-party keyboard found somewhere on Google Play. The web browsing experience is a mixed bag. For the most part, of course, it is good enough and will get the job done. As you see, we have this fluid scrolling and relatively fluid pinch zooming, but there are a number of things that kind of make the whole thing somewhat unintuitive, and especially for not so tech-savvy users, this probably wouldn't be the best phone to browse the web with. For example, I'm scrolling up and down, like right now, up and down, and then we have all of a sudden these on-screen keyboard keys appeared, which let us do various stuff like show the bookmarks, and now they just disappeared. I don't know why. Show us saved for later stuff, and let us open the tabs. But as you can see, well, I actually get the feeling that if I use this for a few days more, I'll get used to this, but that's not the point. The point is that we have an unintuitive experience with these keys showing up randomly here. It's not clear when they show up, and especially for not that tech-savvy users, this can be somewhat frustrating, and this is not the only issue with the browser. For example, I'll show you how zooming gets done here. I'll just do double tap on one of these articles here, and then the handset will zoom in, and we will all think that it has loaded everything and I'm ready to go, and then all of a sudden the handset will make blink, and the text is going to reflow, it's going to disappear, reappear, and then potentially change our view of the whole thing. And I'll just show it to you. I'm zooming, we're there, and boom, in a second or in a couple of seconds, it then reflows the text, which again might be very frustrating for not so tech-savvy users. And I'll just do a little pinch, zoom out, release it, and again it blinks and it changes everything. It just shows us a slightly offset view, and in some cases, I've used this for a while now, and can tell you that in some cases this offsetting of the view is very big. You see, just something just happened here. It blinks randomly, keys are appearing and disappearing seemingly at random. I guess there is some rule here which tells the handset when to show them, but it's just not intuitive. The normal user cannot understand when this is happening. Unfortunately, we tried to solve this by installing a third-party browser, but it didn't really work out the way we thought. Opera Mobile crashed upon loading a page, while Dolphin HD had the same problem with the constant text reflow and blinking between changing zooming levels. So we guess that there is a browser in Google Play that will resolve this situation, but we've just not found it yet. Anyways, as we said, the browser is good enough to get the job done, although of course in such a premium handset we are expecting a bit more than that. Its performance is above average, it's pretty decent, and it also of course supports the newest Flash player, so you won't miss any elements here while browsing the web with the One X. HTC has done a lot of improvement with the camera of the HTC One X and its new camera technology as a whole. So it has even given a name to the new technology. It's called ImageSense, and it has a dedicated image chip taking care of all the calculations needed to present you a good final result. The camera is 8 megapixels. 8 megapixel one has an LED flash, and one of the most important improvements that HTC has made is to make it faster, and this thing really is very fast. It's autofocusing and taking pictures in a fraction of a second. So you can take, let's say, up to 5 images in a second with autofocusing. It's that fast. What we also like about this interface of the camera here is that we have the camera shutter key and the video recording key at the same time on the screen, so you don't have to switch modes like on other handsets. If you want to take a picture, you just press the camera shutter. There's our picture. If you want to record a video, you just press the video recording key. I'll just show you how quickly this shoots. One picture, another picture, and keep in mind that I now have image review turned on, so I have to press this key, but otherwise it would be even faster than this. Check this out. It's very fast. Of course, there is the usual number of settings here to complement the camera interface. You can set a self-timer, you can change the image resolution or video resolution, you can change the review duration, some other image adjustments like exposure, contrast and saturation, and even sharpness. You also can change the ISO sensitivity, the white balance preset. It's the usual set here. And in terms of video, you can also choose to use video stabilization, and you can also record in stereo using both microphones, the regular one and the noise cancellation one. Now, the images that you actually produce using the HTC One X and its 8 megapixel ImageSense camera are of pretty decent quality. They have nice level of detail, although not 8 megapixel level of detail, but it's still pretty good in this respect, although this comes at the expense of some noise within the images. Of course, well, as you can see, we were shooting on a cloudy day, but still the level of noise is a bit above the average. Colors as a whole are very nicely balanced, so you get a natural looking image, although in some cases it's really visible how the camera oversaturates the colors a bit, and in some situations this may not look really well, as in this image, for example. Video recording is a mixed bag. On one hand, it's visible that the quality itself of the image is very good. We can see there is pretty good detail. Again, colors are very nicely balanced, but on the downside of it all, you can shoot at the maximum frame rate of 22 or 23, somewhere there, frames per second, which is lower than today's standards, and the difference between shooting in 23 and 30 frames per second is indeed visible, so the video is not as smooth as we would like. The HTC One X is one of the best handsets we've seen to watch video on, not only because of the giant 4.7-inch screen, but because of its quality and its very high resolution of 1280 by 720 pixels. As we said in the beginning, HTC is using the Super LCD 2 technology, and what we observe here are great viewing angles, as well as very nicely saturated colors. In terms of saturation, actually, this screen is nearer to what we get on AMOLED screens rather than to what we have on typical LCD panels. So if you enjoy watching a lot of videos on your handset, the One X would be a perfect fit for you. As a phone, the HTC One X performs decently. It's not great, but it's not bad either. The voices sounding through its earpiece are okay in terms of quality, nothing too big, but by no means bad. And the volume is just enough in order to hear what you're being told clearly. Although if you happen to be in a noisier environment and trying to make a phone call using the HTC One X, you may have some problems hearing the person on the other end of the line. On the other end of the line, as we said, things are somewhat similar, although just a tad bit better. You cannot remove the battery of the HTC One X, and the company hasn't yet released the official numbers for standby and talk time. But during our testing we came to conclude that the battery life is just okay, normal for a modern day smartphone. And of course we shouldn't forget about its giant 4.7-inch screen, which is of course drawing a lot of power. All in all, the HTC One X is a pretty good smartphone. We like the direction that HTC is going, but it's just not the ultimate phone, you know. It's neither the perfect nor the best Android smartphone out there, and there's a number of reasons why this is so. Most importantly, some of the, let's say, little details in its software just don't feel finished or polished enough. Of course, we like the fact that the company has simplified its Sense user interface, and it now moves very smoothly. As you can see, there is no lag and such stuff. But what about the QWERTY keyboard? You know, they had all of this real estate here, and still the typing experience is not as comfortable as on some smartphones which have smaller screens than this. And what about the browser, which, as we said, is not as intuitive as what we're used to seeing in some other premium smartphones. And well, if you have your QWERTY keyboard and browser messed up, well, these are actually one of the most important aspects of any modern day smartphone, and it doesn't really speak well of the whole execution here. Another thing is the camera, which, as we said, produces okay images, but they should have been great, you know. There was this ImageSense technology, the image chip, but the pictures are okay, they're good, but they're not something out of the ordinary. And what's worse is actually that the 1080p video and the 720p video as well are shot at about 23 frames per second, which is visibly not as smooth as video shot at 30 frames per second. These things aside, there is still a lot to love in the HTC One X. For example, its very big 4.7-inch screen, which is very beautiful and a great asset if you like watching a lot of video on your cell phone, or if you play a lot of games also. In addition, the handset is practically future-proof thanks to the quad-core Tegra 3 processor by NVIDIA. So you can be sure that pretty much every upcoming application or game will be running flawlessly on your device. So our final verdict is that the HTC One X is a great, but not perfect and not the best Android smartphone out there, even though it's the first to launch with this fancy new processor inside. If you'd like to learn more about the One X or pretty much every other smartphone out there, you can visit us anytime at PhoneArena.com.